There are two kinds of old-timers. On the one hand, you have the prestigious cars, the classics, the family heirlooms. Cars that have been looked after, taken care of properly, maintained, polished, and loved. On the other hand, you have the barn finds, the forgotten children of automotive history. Cars that were never really meant to survive that long anyway. Maybe somebody passed away and no one wanted to look after the car, or maybe it was just left in the corner, forgotten by all, to rust away. Today's car belongs to the latter category. It was once a member of a happy family until one day got abandoned by the side of the road, and since then it has had to live on the streets and fend for itself. This is not a classic car. This is a rescue. You see, the previous owner bought it from a lady who was very, very mad at her husband and decided to sell the car while he was at work for pennies on the dollar. I don't even want to think about how the conversation must have been like around the dinner table that night. Anyway, the gentleman who bought the car then used it as his daily driver for many years until he passed away quite a few years ago. After that, the car went into his son, who is a sailor and not much of a driver himself. So the car was mostly left to rot in a parking lot in Nijmegen in the Netherlands, where it became known as the spookauto. In Dutch, it means the ghost car. Of course, over the years it became a squatting spot for homeless people and junkies until the current owners bought the car and thankfully got rid of most of the smell. I still do feel the urge to check the seats for needles every time I get in, though. Who can say no to free needles after all? But enough about that. This is a 1972 Ford Country Squire, a station wagon directed at the American market that was built between 1950 and 1991. You might be familiar with it as it's been for many years a TV and movie favorite as the classic American family car with the wood paneling on the sides. And you can tell that it's been designed with the American market in mind. It is absolutely gigantic. As a point of comparison, when I was a kid, my dad used to drive a Renault 18, which was also in the States. The difference is you could probably fit the R18 in the back of this car and still have plenty of room for your week's grocery shopping, a medium-sized dog, and a fat baby. If you want to know the difference between America and Europe, well, apart from driving theaters and school shootings, obviously, look no further. And it's not just the size of the car either, it's also the size of the engine. This car is fitted with, and I hope you're sitting down, a 7-litre, 429 cubic inch naturally aspirated V8 making 385 horsepower. Granted, most of these horses have escaped in the 50 years or so the car's been on the road, but still, a 7-litre making 385 horsepower in a family car. This is insane. To go back to my dad's old R18, if memory serves, it used to have a 1.4 litre straight 4 engine. I don't know how much power it used to make, certainly not that much. Despite being huge, however, it is actually very easy to drive. This car has one of the lightest steering I've ever seen in a car, and that means that it is actually very easy to maneuver around and park. Much easier actually than most smaller European cars of its era. And I love the way it looks. The car is in the process of being restored, but I really like the way it looks now with the bare metal bodywork and the spaced out wheels and the black wheel arches. And this is a lady's everyday car. Can you imagine showing up at work every day driving this? This, my friends, is the very definition of badass. Oh yeah, one thing that I find particularly interesting about this car is that it has not one, but two country music songs named after it. Who would have guessed that a family estate would stand shoulder to shoulder with Nelson Pickett's Mustang Sally or Prince's Little Red Corvette? Oh, Country Squire, family transportation, fun and relaxation, perfect for vacation. That is what it said on the flyer. I mentioned earlier that one of the previous owners died and left this car to his son. Well, this man loved this car so much that when he died, his friends and family decided it would only be fair for him to take one last ride in it before he got buried. And so for one time and one time only, this very car was turned into a hearse. One final journey before the final journey. So while the car was dubbed the ghost car because for years it haunted a nice little residential area, terrorizing the residents with its evil looks, I like to think that if there is a ghost in here, it's the spirit of the man who loved his car so much he quite literally drove it all the way to his final resting place. Us petrolheads, we like talking about cars having a soul. Well, I don't think any car I've ever driven or will ever drive can really top that.
We were watching out the window, and Dad was on his way, bringing home our new car. We could hardly wait. A two-tone Cobra Mustang was my brother Joe's desire, and I was hoping for a black Trans Am with that bird breathing fire. When Dad pulled up in a Country Squire, he said, "Boys, you won't believe the super deal I got. Just take a look at that wood paneling and that luggage rack on top. I don't believe I've ever seen my dad so inspired." He slapped the hood and he took his foot and he kicked a white wall tire. He said, "Boys, get your stuff." And we loaded up the Country Squire. Family transportation, fun and relaxation, perfect for vacation. And that's what it said on the flyer, Country Squire.
And cut!